I hope some of these readings and reflections are providing you with topics for inquiry. You can look into and consider and reflect upon and review through this retreat and, of course, onwards. So, I'm not particularly an avid scholar, but I do dip in and just notice over years little things that have caught my attention and use for my own practice. Everything is really, I think all your teaching, everything is really a commentary on what the Buddha already laid down, trying to make it relevant and clear and contemporary to our situation we're living in this time. So today, talk a little about karma and sankhara, residues. These are very potent areas, action and the results of it. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhaṃ dhammāṃ saṅghāṃ namasāmi. So this is from the connected discourses, the book of the senses, sense basis, Salayatana, Sutta number, which is the 42nd chapter of the book of the connected discourses, and this is from Sutta number 8. The conch blower. Again, I'll take the liberty to be brief. It's a comparison between how the Buddha understood the teachings of the Jain, Nigantanatta Buddha, on karma, and his own teaching on the same topic. So a headman, village headman, who comes to see the Buddha and asks him, and so he's a disciple of this Nigantanatta Buddha, and so the Buddha asks him, what's his view? What's the Jain's view? He says that the Dhamma, that anyone at all who destroys life is bound to be in a state of misery, bound for hell. Anyone who takes what's not given is bound for a state of misery, bound for hell. The same for one who engages in sexual misconduct or falsehood is one bound for hell. Seem to list out alcohol. One is led on in terms of rebirth by the manner in which one usually dwells. This is the way that Nigantanatta Buddha teaches the Dhamma. So the Buddha then replies, well, in that case, even if you're a bloody-handed murderer, so how many murders might you do a week? Maybe one. Perhaps it's probably enough. Murder might take you 15, 20 minutes or so. So most of the time you're not murdering anybody. So in that case, you'd say if your rebirth depends upon your general disposition, you say, well, no problem. Only got 15 minutes of the week wrong. That's minor. So he says, well, then it's not really what you do well, it is what you do, but it's the intensity of the impact and the residues it leaves in the heart. So it's, we say, so then the residues, upadi, acquisitions, residues. So it's recognition of the nature of citta, of heart, of mind. Sensitive. And it's wrapped and it's clothed in what's called citta sankhara. These are impulses, volitional formations, and these are triggered by feeling and perception. So sometimes it's said feeling and perception is the citta sankhara. It's a springboard. What we feel, what we perceive, gives rise to a particular action. Yeah. And feeling and perception is natural to consciousness. But what is possible is to not have that reaction. The sankhara doesn't have to jump up. Yeah. Someone can feel aversion, feel angry, feel upset, and just check that and, not act upon it. So it's just, this is the kind of, the general standard. We have a scrutiny over that, but it is things that have been done in the past. And he says, so the headman says, yeah, I've done some stupid stuff, and I've certainly, I've reflected upon it, and I've done these things, and I feel pretty miserable because I'm doomed to hell. And the Buddha says, no, you can recognize, there's certainly regret and remorse around that. It's understandable. Absolutely, you should have regret and remorse. Then you make a stand. Don't stop. Now you've noticed. You don't do that anymore. And he says, then you generate the spheres of kindness, compassion, appreciative gladness, and equanimity. Just as a strong conch blower can easily send his signal to the four quarters, so too when the liberation of mind by loving kindness, compassion, appreciative joy, and equanimity is developed and cultivated in this way, any limited karma that was done does not remain there, does not persist there. So, liberated mind. This is citta vimutti, which doesn't mean the final liberation. It means that the particular nagging hindrance, blemish, regret, when the citta is freed from that ongoing repetition of worry, agitation, and so forth. And we can add more to that, the grudging, the bitterness, the projections on other people, the memory things he did this and she never did that kind of stuff. And also, I didn't do this, I should have done that. And what other people think about me, they probably think I'm useless, or they expect so much of me, or, they resent me, or whatever, these kind of, or don't respect me. These kind of suggestions that can be lingering in the citta, So you get this as, and this means not just what you've done, but it's not just even your karma, but living in the realm of karma, which we do. It means other people's actions, which we also receive. So karma, both one's own actions and what you've done and what's been done to you, leave these impressions. That is, the citta is dented, you might say. And then the energy runs around that dent. It's like you can't travel through it. Or the citta's got a hole in it. the energy can't travel through it, or the citta's frozen and numb with fear, or energy can't travel through it. Therefore, the citta is hindered. And that's the way I put it. That's the way it can feel. And so we notice we have these trigger places. We feel uncomfortable with other people, or we feel nervous, anxious, or we feel jealous. She's getting all the attention, I'm not getting any. Or we feel overwhelmed. Why am I getting all this attention? Why can't I get out of the spotlight, get off my case, So all these kind of things, these human actions can have triggering effects. And even what we imagine other people are doing or saying, or whatever, can have triggering effects. So you're feeling a sense of fear, dread, or left out, or ignored, or, these kinds of jealousies and things of what we imagine other people are getting or not getting. He's getting all the praise, I'm not getting any. Well, you don't know what he's getting. He might be getting some praise, he's probably getting some blame, and he's probably getting a lot of other things too. We just focus, seems that the citta, when it's wounded state, focuses on areas that will almost trigger that wound. It's like a wound seeking an arrow. And it's not a decision, it's a reflex. And citta has kind of got this, like you have floaters in your eyes. These things when bits of debris or something floats around in the eyes, so everything you see has got this little spot or speck in it. And of course, a wise person recognises it's not out there, it's just a speck in my eye. And it's not going to shift. But at least I understand that's what it is. So even if there are these experiences of what we've experienced in the past, we recognise, I am tendency to be a bit sensitive on that, but that's there. I don't have to keep rerunning that script. And how is this possible? Basically because we wrap the citta in a wholesome covering, or a wholesome mind state, or a wholesome sankhara. Like metta, it's volitional, it's generated, it's conditioned, so we call it sankhara. In the same sense, like all our practice is some kind of sankhara or another. So sankharas aren't all bad, but there are ones that carry these traces of fear, delusion, passion, bitterness, jealousy, stuff like that. And we recognise when they hit, there's this flash. And suddenly everything starts moving very fast. And that's the way you recognise it, because it flashes and it moves very fast, and you're suddenly gripped by it. Whereas more wholesome stuff, I find it's much more like you get it's a much softer impression, like a slower dawning. Oh, that's beautiful. That's so admirable. Kind of softer. And you feel it in your body feels whole and light with that. So whenever we do cultivate skillful karma, definitely volitional, definitely chosen, and we sustain it, and you linger in the results, you get this sense of something feels brighter, and you can almost feel it in your body. You feel more complete, more grounded, more open, more stabilized. It's called punya. Now, punya translated as merit, and people naturally, but have found themselves a little bit confused about what's all this. Sounds like Boy Scouts. I used to get merit badges in the Boy Scouts. actually done good. So it seems a bit infantile. It's just the way the word is, but punya is more like feeling of value, worth, goodness. You actually feel it. It's not just an idea. You get the sense of being suffused with something that's solidifying. Whereas when there's kind of fear or irritation, generally you almost lose your body. Either your body seizes up, or you spin out into your head, and then these pictures and images and worries and narratives start churning. That's when you know there's something there. And a wise person, maybe people are being hostile. Maybe so. You can't really govern everybody else's behaviour and projections and perceptions of you. But wait a minute, do I have to take that in? I have to take that in. So you don't have to get other people's karma doesn't have to trigger your own. That's a possibility. It's not likely, I think it's extraordinarily unlikely to live life without getting blamed, accused, disliked. And the Buddha said there's never was anybody who was never blamed. And maybe sometimes they're right. So okay, there's room for wise observation and feedback, but I don't need the hostility. Doesn't help. So recognizing this tendency or the flaring up, and we get excited over projects and things we want to do, and we get a bit giddy. That tendency to seek and become, expand, get better, more, build, make, bigger, better, more, yeah. Just a minute. Are we losing our moorings? So it's the way of practice. Somebody comes to the monastery and makes some big donation. You don't go, whoopee, let's build a pagoda. You say, they've made some merit. Sadhu, may they be happy. And just let it go. And then see what's appropriate. They just cut off that reaction. But often in terms, particularly when we come to this introspective practice, we get very sensitive, and we may indeed touch into our anxieties or our depression or residues. And then, okay, what are we going to do about it? And with some recognition, actually nobody is doing anything nasty to me, it's purely stuff bubbling up. So the general, why this encouragement to generate these viharas, called the measureless states, just to give the citta an embodiment. So you've got the body, you get a sense of stability, just a minute. Presence. So when you refine mindfulness of body right down, you get down to the basic, there is body, which is just a sense of presence, something stable, presence. You got that. Okay? Just hold on, body, presence. And then noticing the feeling of fear, anxiety, or defensiveness. And just wait a minute. Just open the area up. Don't dismiss it. Open the area up. Something to be learned here. Something to be transformed here. Something to be shifted here. Quality of non-aversion, avoidance of cruelty, the harshness, sense of appreciation of what's good in oneself and in others. Equanimity, recognizing, praise, blame, success, failure, that's the world. It always has been, always will be. Can I find a place to stabilize in that? With equanimity, we accept these currents, but we don't adopt them. We don't take them in. We realize this is the sea we're sailing in, but we stay in our boat. And you take a stand on truth. This is how it is. Now I'm here. My intentions like that. You recollect your intentions, and you acknowledge the wholesomeness of intentions, and you generate that to a point where you can really feel that as a presence and a commitment, and as appreciation of that. And a sense of strengthening, gladdening, rebutting, the tendency to be defensive or reactive, and just and then these qualities have a kind of softer, soothing energy to them. They're upper mana states. So you feel the flash and the rush, and then that's the time when you presence, body, and then the qualities of measureless heart. It always was the case that there is cruelty and bitterness. Where does it terminate? How does it terminate? So when we cultivate this, using our tool of deep attention, we look into that, the aramana, the mood, the sanya, the perception, the feeling. So with these strong reactive senses, we come into it and it's me. It's a very strong me sense. I'm alone. Yeah. And in some ways, we are kind of alone in some respects, but not happily alone, but ostracized, abandoned, the only one, the one with the problem, and so forth. One who can't keep up, the failure, should be better. This kind of thing going on. It's so common. Every retreat I go on, whatever the theme is of the retreat, it's supposed to be, when you do the interviews, it always comes down to obsessive thinking and self-criticism. is the only theme. Judgment, self-criticism, obsessive thinking. Why is it like this? You see, because when you live in performance societies where you've got to achieve, and from a young age, be tidy, be clean, be well behaved. Okay. And then learn and get good grades, and then the pressure mounts up. So a sense then, and if that's held with criticism, like you're not good enough, rather than how beautiful, you've done something very lovely there, then the sense is the sense of education and learning is always the shadow of failure and being left out and being abandoned. And that acts like a dent or cut off in the heart. So whenever these, you're sitting and just this thing could start speaking, Oh, I feel alone, everybody else I'm not as good as. You see people sitting like beautifully, sitting so beautifully, regularly, coming to do the practice, look so serene and balanced. You talk to them and say, I'm so pathetic. Everybody else is doing much better than me. I'm so pathetic. Goodness, yeah. And I remember talking to, sometimes I just float the question, well, what's happening for you? What are you doing? What brings you here? I remember one occasion this woman said, well, 9 years ago, after 15 years of practice, I had a thought of loving kindness towards myself. I'd like to have another one. And she looked so good, she's sitting there really upright, steady, always there, but just so intense, trying to hold it all together and be perfect. That's why she looked so good. Geez, couldn't you just be a bit sloppy? Absolutely impossible. Even that, she's still critical. So, does this ever stop? It doesn't stop by getting better. It doesn't stop by performing better. Clearly. It stops by dealing with this, the wound. Yeah. So we carry, some of this is family problems. Parents are human beings, like everyone else, with their failures and blank spots and blemishes. So sometimes it's just the case that the parent was absent, didn't give much care, or was directly abusive. So then you get that dent gets established, because basically a little one is barely separate from the parent. It's almost an extension of the parents. They're so open, so skinless. Everything the parent fluctuates with, they get it. Got no skin. So then these impressions get landed at a very early age. This is what you are. You are someone who has to work very hard to be just about acceptable. And even then you could do better. That you get marinated in that juice. And this may not be the case for you, but I certainly know it's pretty common. And then you come into this arena, this area, and think, the Buddha, the Arahants, God, everybody's so up there, so high. I mean, this kind of squirty little defiled creep. And all these nuns and monks sitting like rocks, and I'm just so feeble and pathetic, and my mind is untrained and all. Standards are pretty high. And you read in some sutta how this person starts by being a complete idiot. By the end, by page 3, he's enlightened. Wow. Why am I so slow? But it is, you can only be as wise as you are now. You can only be as clean as you are now. We're all a bit soiled. We're all damaged goods. We've all told lies, or whatever, or just been bullied. Yeah. So the monk here he used to have these really quite difficult, so prickly and defensive. He felt he was being attacked all the time. You can't. It's very difficult to take it on. Take on the training, because it's always so hypersensitive to being criticised. Yeah. So, but then I remember one time in the Patimokkha recitation, we're getting about 3/4 way through it, and he just completely collapsed in sobbing. And so I had to take him out carefully, lead him upstairs to his room, get him to lie down, get him comfortable, give him a little bit of a foot massage, get him back in his body. 20 minutes later return, everybody's still sitting there, Patimokka. Like pause and then, okay, back where were we? Pachitya 25. Start again, And it turned out this young fellow, his mother tried to kill him, he says, several times, and always used to beat him at school. So he's just extremely, well, you can imagine, it's defense and fear. Wow. Yeah. Now we may consider, kindness to be those wonderful occasions we can have, when we can be a source of comfort to others, which is marvelous, when that can happen. And one should, my sense is, one should take those opportunities. You never regret it. Just have the heart open with that goodwill. When you're living in community, this is the lingua franca, this is the standard language we should be adopting. These Brahmaviharas are community atmosphere and relationships, first of all. And then we'll deal with the blemishes and faults in their own when that is established. But then sometimes you can't. You can only stand and bear witness without agitation, without trying to correct people, without worrying, without, should be another way, get over it, let go, without advising even, just sheerly bear presence and, okay, how's it feeling? Because these qualities are even subtler than our actions. And they're more like natural suffusions that occur when the heart is open. When the heart is open, able to be open to pain and distress and moral failure and so forth. Not shocked or righteous about it. Okay. How do we start? How do we start again? How do we help each other? So that, and then individually, when you're experiencing any of this for yourself, feeling offended, or whatever, feeling left out, just, wait a minute, maybe I am, but let's just check that out. What's happening? So there's the perception, then this flash of feeling, uncomfortable feeling, and then the reaction, this jump. So then the narrative starts. Often a narrative that's an old narrative, here we are again. That's another way one recognizes them, because we've been this for the last 15 years. This particular narrative's been spinning. Okay, so as you recognize it's something here to be cleared. So we go back to the feeling, the perception, the feeling, and open, and it gives presence, this grounded presence, and then catch that in this atmosphere of non-aversion. Means it's okay to feel frightened. It's okay to feel irritated. I'm not saying act upon it, but that's what happens. And for some reason or another, that's what's happened. You've got to make it kind of okay so that the mind can be able to sit and stabilize with it. If we're just reacting to it, then we don't get the chance to really stabilize around these poignant experiences. The heart is stabilized around it, no longer doing those reactions, then what tends to occur is gradually the sense of me dissipates. Because the me was created by that jump between the perception and the sankhara. That's where I got born. That's where the me arose, the jump between the perception and the reaction. That's where the me gets created. Now, if that perception can be held and stabilized, then yes, it's uncomfortable, yes, it's painful. But with the ending of the me, the dropping of the sankhara, and applying a contrary sankhara, the me sense disappears, and it's just, okay, uncomfortable feeling, unpleasant feeling. Unpleasant feeling is not great news, but everybody gets unpleasant feeling. When it's not mine and myself, it is just, that. And it's impermanent. I mean, we hear this phrase so many times, but why don't some things don't seem very impermanent? They seem rather permanent, because there's this flashing reaction that continually reiterates. If we can get back to the perception and the feeling, just there it is, hold it steadily, the feeling wells up and begins to dissipate, subside, because it's not getting enacted. So it's getting starved of the volition, the impulse that carves the groove in the citta, that follows the dent in the citta, that seeks the hole in the citta and digs it one more time. And with withdrawing from that, the sankhara begin to acknowledge that, but also not me, not mine. Just that's everybody gets when they feel frightened, they do that. That's what deer do it, rabbits do it. Okay? It's that. And we're able to come to the place of contact where stuff touches me. And who's that? Does it matter? It matters a lot. This is where this reminder, anatta, as a liberation teaching, all this is we're checking it out. Who does this happen to? There's an image, a memory, a sanya of a person, an entity. Who's she? Who's he? A turbulence, a wave, a fluctuation, a heat, a shivering. Is that a person? Creates a person? Is it a person? No, it's a shivering, a wave, a reaction, a tension, a heat. Okay, so now if we apply these cooling, soothing impressions to that, or open the heart to allow it to feel that, this agitation, stirring, soothes, calms down, the inflammation ceases. Where does this happen? Where's the point of contact? When the flurrying and the reactivity abates, where did that happen? Where did the abating, where did the experience of things ceasing happen? It was empty. There's no sign, there's no body there. There's just this stillness, openness. Didn't happen to anybody. It's called when the ceasing of nama-rupa, forms, phantom forms, images and perceptions in the mind that become forms that haunt us. How many people are walking around inside you? Phantoms, forms. How much activation of perception, feeling and volition is happening. This is all nama-rupa. When that ceases to get activated, the citta goes out. Where it goes, you can't say. It's just that it's gone out. There's like the flame has died down. And yet that can be experienced as still, very intrinsic, natural, kind of obvious, mysterious, open. Not a person, not me, not just obviously just a returning to the blank slate. And it's peaceful. And these reference point becomes something that you notice, and you can get faith. Yeah, this too, this one too, if I could do this process, would remind me, would bring the citta back out of its histories and clothing and dreams and nightmares into a place of stability and openness. It's still there, somewhere. But where? We don't know, it's gone out. And yet, presence, awareness, like a cool stillness. But it's not numb, it's clearly, we see the Buddha was quite appreciative. He could experience, I remember his last saying how much he liked the town of Vesali. On his last tour, he recognized he wouldn't see the town of Vesali again, so he turned around. So this was a beautiful place. So obviously he was affected. He would say, here's a good, cool place for pleasant abiding. So clearly he was sensitive to phenomena. It wasn't like it's all the same. Well, it's all, doesn't matter if I'm in Siberia or Wolverhampton or Neasden or Chithurst. No, this is better. This is beauty here. I'm touched by it. So there's that sensitivity, but he wasn't saying like, I'm never going to leave Vesali. I've got to have it. And I just say that's beautiful. That also, that gentle touched, and you're not grasping. So this is definitely encouragement, isn't it, for a life that's not about not feeling anything, being blank, but a life where the feeling doesn't generate these volitional pushes, when the past can be finished. So one's open, the future is open, the present is open, and then we're available to meet what life brings to us. How do we generate this field of goodwill? Well, my way of doing this, I just begin to acknowledge how much goodwill has been shown, acted upon towards myself. This whole lifetime. It's not all been goodwill, but a pretty decent heap of goodwill, of support, of friendship, of offerings, guidance. Not just flowers, but guidance, offered freely, without asking for anything in return. I just feel so almost amazed by that. And if we linger in any of this, any day, every day is a day of being given to. Just even being able to breathe and feel the pleasant suffusions of breathing. To be able to be here when we're getting signs from nature rather than traffic and traffic lights and diesel fumes. You're getting signs that touch the heart. And so, wonderful, such good fortune. So one lingers in it, and linger particularly in those human gestures that are evident every day, quietly but evident. And then naturally, the nature of skillful state is as you linger in it, it just gets bigger and bigger. The heart fills, and the heart floods. And you think, I want to do the same. It doesn't, it's not even a decision, it just does it. It overflows. So you feel that, yeah, I can take a stand on that. And this is, whatever else, this is going to be for my welfare and the welfare of others. And then you just open the vihara and then you say, okay, anybody near or far, alive or dead, karmic field, anything in the karmic field, let's have a look. Anything in the karmic field, come in, and let's see if we can do some healing with that one, or some gratitude with that one. So you let a little bit of free will, associative thought. What comes in, what drifts in, and oh yeah, that was, just kind of taking care of one's territory, house cleaning. So that these specks are removed and the heart gets bigger. So I'll offer this for your encouragement today. Naturally it's quite a week. It's just this restraint has been pretty good, and the commitment has been excellent, and naturally it's just here to help support the collective restraint and focus, so we pick up the mood from others, and then we are so benefited, so blessed by having a supportive field that the chitta can take refuge in and feel open to and feel strengthened by. So within that, hopefully there's a few things you could look at again or review and encourage to develop for your own welfare and for the welfare of others.